I call this meeting to order, and we will begin with the flag salute. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome this evening to our budget adoption date. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. Notices announcing the date, time, and place for this special meeting were sent to all concerned individuals, associations, and posted on the district website in accordance with Public Law 2025, Chapter 72. I'd like to do a roll call, please. Ms. Cohn?
Here.
Ms. Kelly?
Here.
Ms. Kelly is participating remotely. Mr. Cho?
Here.
Mr. Gunderson is expected. Mr. Hanley?
Here.
Ms. Justice?
Here.
Ms. Mahicha?
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. We will begin with agenda item number 4, 2026-27 annual school budget, beginning with a discussion of the Board of Education members. Are there any Board of Education members that would like to say anything? Yes, Carlos.
Thank you, Madam President. I do. Madam President, colleagues, and members of the public, taxing our residents is one of the most serious responsibilities we have as a Board of Education. It is not free money. Every additional dollar we take comes directly out of Summit families' hard-earned paychecks, and we must treat that power with discipline and respect. We cannot and should not arbitrarily raise taxes. It is important to note that New Jersey state law places strict limits on how much we can increase the school tax levy through the adjusted cap calculation, which must be certified by the Board of School Estimate and, to be clear, not by voter referendum. Good intentions do not justify unnecessary taxation. That is why we chose to reduce the tax levy from the originally proposed 5.17% down to 4.93%. When the final numbers showed less of a New Jersey state aid cut than we anticipated, we gave that relief back to the taxpayers, rather than impermanently increasing the tax base. We reduced the tax levy based on actual need and fiscal balance, not on the desire to spend every dollar we are legally allowed to collect. Some have suggested we should have kept a higher rate and simply found ways to spend the difference. But experience shows us clearly that spending more money alone does not guarantee better results for our children. New Jersey already spends among the highest amounts per pupil in the entire country, yet many of the highest spending districts produce far weaker academic outcomes, lower proficiency rates, and poorer long-term results than districts that spend significantly less but manage their resources more effectively. Our commitment is to deliver excellent education through responsible stewardship, raising taxes only when truly necessary and lowering them when we can do so responsibly. That is how we best serve our students and honor the Summit taxpayers who make our outstanding schools possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahicha. Anyone else?
Madam President, I'd like to speak. Since the fiscal year 2011-2012 budget, which is inclusive of this budget we're voting on, that's 16 budgets, and only in 5 of the years has the school budget tax levy increase that was approved exceeded 2% or more. So hopefully the public should realize that the school board and the administration has always been very disciplined and fiscally responsible for the Summit taxpayer. In fact, if we were to have simply been at the 2% statutory cap every year, the actual tax levy, even inclusive of this year's proposed 4.93% and last year's 4%, the tax levy would have been higher if we were simply at 2%. So hopefully the history of our tax increases shows that the school administration, even with prior superintendent and prior school boards, the history and the practice is always to be very fiscally conservative and disciplined and simply tax what's necessary for the budget to achieve the mission at hand. Unfortunately, the financial environment now in the last couple of years makes it extremely challenging and really almost impossible to meet the 2% statutory cap target, and hopefully the public understands where we need to be, and simply we are where we need to be to achieve the mission of the Selma school system.
Thank you, Mr. Cho. Also, I would like to note that Mr. Gunderson is joining remotely due to issues with the train. So thank you, Mr. Gunderson, for being on. We are just taking comments from the board at this time. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment? Mr. Hanley.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I'll reiterate comments I made last week. I'll give a version of the brief version. But as chair of the Operations Committee, I'm extremely complimentary to the administration and your efforts throughout this budget process, particularly Superintendent Huff and Assistant Business Administrator Kathy Sarno. Your diligence, your transparency, and your efforts to share information, to dig into details, and to partner with the board, and particularly the Operations Committee, allowing us to kind of go past the line a little bit, if you will, and stress test this budget in a lot of ways that was a bit atypical in my experience in prior board roles. And I want to compliment you for that, because it was a reaction and response to the public's concerns last year about the budget process. The administration and your entire staff took those concerns from the public to heart, and you responded extremely favorably. And so I'm quite proud of the efforts from this board, the Operations Committee, and most specifically the administration at your efforts in what is a very difficult operating environment, and one, if you did not hear the readouts from the Operations Committee throughout this past year, I highlight almost every meeting the challenges we are facing and the cost pressures we are seeing that are fundamental in nature and that will not go away anytime soon. So I was on a lot of boards, as Mr. Cho mentioned, in the last decade that came in well below cap. There was very good reason. Inflation was low and we could, but it ain't anymore. And cap, as I said last week, really the 2% number is not the guideline that should pop to our head first and foremost when we're thinking about these school budgets going forward for the next few years. So with that said, the committee delivered tirelessly. We delivered all the things that we promised to the public. Everything from doing detailed budgets of comparable districts. The Business Administrator's Office conducted multi-year budget forecasts for better contingency planning. We did zero-based budgeting, and we accelerated the calendar process to have more communications, more robust communications with the public. And I think it's evidenced by tonight. This room is fairly empty, except for those that are obligated for the most part to be here. There's one or two of you that aren't, but that says a lot, I think, to the superintendent and your process, and to the communications, that the community is comfortable and happy. So I'm quite pleased that we as a board have done more than our fair share of supervisory oversight, looking at this budget and working to make sure it aligns with the entire needs of the school district to put a sustainable financial product that is financially sustainable educational product on the shelf for our residents and our taxpayers. So I am extremely supportive, and I ask the full board to continue their support, as well as the Board of School Estimate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. For myself, I want to say that I believe this budget keeps our students in mind first and foremost, and the well-being of our students, and making sure that we are meeting the educational needs of the students in a way to keep up the excellent school that we have and the excellent education that we give our students. And also at the same time, as a number of people have pointed out, we've kept the taxpayers in mind, and we've really worked very hard to make sure that we looked at every line, that we were being very thoughtful about where we were spending our money, extremely strategic about where we spend our money in order to keep our schools excellent, but not put a burden on our taxpayers any more than we absolutely needed to. So because I just want to thank the Operations Committee, our chair, Mr. Hanley, Mr. Maecha, and Vice President Kelly. They spent hours and hours of meetings in order to really take a deep dive that, as you just said, Mr. Hanley, was really unprecedented in this school district, but because of the challenging environment, was really necessary this year. And so I want to thank you for all of the time and effort that you put into meeting and really digging deep into all of the details. And I want to also thank our administration and especially Superintendent Huff, but also our principals and really all of our school teams that worked so hard to make sure that this budget was really keeping our students centered and also making sure that everything that we were doing was necessary in order to keep our schools excellent. So thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay. So with that, we'll move on to public comments. Ms. Zeno.
Here are the public comment guidelines. Anyone wishing to speak shall first seek recognition by the presiding officer, which is President Cohn. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address in a clear, audible tone for the record. Please direct all your comments to the board president and not an individual board member. Please remember to conduct yourself with decorum and respect when speaking and addressing the board. Unless additional time is granted by the board president, please be respectful and mindful and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. In addition, please note that this portion of the meeting is for public comment and not meant to be a back and forth discussion. Thank you.
Good evening. Diego Hoyk, Argyle Court. It is clear that the increase in state aid, about $150,000 in a $90 million budget, seems like a rounding error. Indeed, it amounts to about $19 on average for every Summit home. For this reason, it is sad, truly sad, that this board decided to reduce the taxpayer burden and make such a show of appearing to be fiscally responsible for saving the average household the cost of about 5 gallons of gas. You could have chosen to fund some important things with this money. For example, last year you cut 33% of teacher training, $32,000. Put that back into the budget would have cost each average Summit taxpayer 1 gallon of gas. How about bilingual education? In the last year, $200,000 were cut from this valuable service. In the last 2 years, $200,000 were cut from this valuable service, $120,000 in the last year alone. Do you know how many Summit residents were born overseas? About 19% per the census. Gemini estimates that 6% of our kids, about 240 students, were born abroad, with a further 37% born to at least one immigrant parent here in Summit. I asked Kathy Sarno this morning, sorry, late notice, for better information, but I had to go with Gemini. Restoring last year's funding levels would have set our neighbors back 4 gallons of gas. Going back to the funding levels 2 years ago would have set us back 6 gallons of gas. Last year, as you were cutting mental health support, tech support, teacher training, and so many classroom staff, you did find a way to increase transportation by about $530,000. That is a full tank of gas, or 16 gallons. I would like to request that at the next Common Council meeting, when the Council presents the city budget, the members of the Board of School Estimates share what were the transportation costs related to athletics versus those related to other things for the past 4 years. I would like the city government to dispel the rumor that the only money that does not get cut is money for athletics. And lest my detractors accuse me of not supporting athletics, let me be clear. These are lean times. We should strive to fund all three pillars, athletics, academics, the arts, equitably to preserve the quality of our schools. In my opinion, we should always break out what we can along these three pillars to ensure equity and transparency. There are some edits. I'll send it to you by email, Ms. Sarno. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comments, is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Madam President, just want to ask Ms. Sarno, for the record, state aid, my understanding is state aid has been reduced the last 2 years, 3% each year. Is that correct? So there's been a net reduction in state aid the last 2 years by 3% each year?
3% each year, you are correct.
Cuts, right?
Cuts.
All right, thank you.
I think we're ready for roll call.
On the motion moved by Mr. Handley and seconded by Ms. Justice, Mr. Mahesha?
Yes.
Ms. Justice?
Yes.
Mr. Handley?
Yes.
Mr. Gunderson?
Yes.
Mr. Cho?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Cohn?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
So now moving on to agenda item number 5, the approval of the 26-27 school budget resolution. Ms. Zeno, would you read it out, please?
Yes. Be it resolved that the final budget be approved for the 26-27 school year and sent to the Executive County Superintendent of Schools in accordance with the statutory deadline for review and approval. In the 26-27 total expenditures, the general fund amount is $89,672,896. Special revenues is $838,949. There's zero debt service for a total of $90,511,845. We're also receiving revenues in the amount of $9,799,533, an equal amount of special revenues compared to expenditures for a total of $10,638,482. So the local tax levy amount to be raised for the fiscal year 26-27 is $79,873,363 for a total of $79,873,363. Further, it is resolved that included in the general fund appropriations, the Summit City Board of Education authorizes the approval of withdrawal from capital reserve in the amount of a total of $850,000 as follows for the following projects. $600,000 will be allocated towards the middle school new generator. $150,000 will be for the Summit High School hot water heater. And then there will be $100,000 allocated to architect and engineering fees for district-wide projects. Further resolved that as per NJAC 6A:23A-142D, included in the general fund appropriations, the Summit City Board of Education authorizes the approval of withdrawal from maintenance reserve in the amount of $50,000 for the Summit Middle School VCT tile replacement. And further resolved that the Board of Education includes in the tentative budget the adjustment for increased costs of health benefits in the amount of $227,161. The additional funds will be used to pay for the additional increases in health benefit premiums. As a separate motion, the approval of travel and related expenditure reimbursement for the 26-27 school year. Whereas pursuant to NJAC 6A:23:8-7.3, a Board of Education must establish a maximum dollar limit for travel expenditures as defined in NJAC 6A:23A:7.1, etc. Be it resolved that the Summit Board of Education approves establishing the maximum expenditure for the 26-27 school year not to exceed $1,500 for regular travel pursuant to District Policy 6471, and be it further resolved that the Summit Board of Education approves establishing a maximum travel expenditure in the amount of $200,000 for the 26-27 school year. The maximum travel expenditure for the current school year, 25-26, is $200,000, of which year-to-date, $34,392 has been spent, and $5,586 is encumbered to date.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? For the roll call?
On the roll call, Mr. Mahecha?
Yes.
Ms. Justice?
Yes.
Mr. Hanley?
Yes.
Mr. Gunderson?
Yes.
Mr. Cho?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Cohn?
Yes.
The budget resolutions passed unanimously.
And the last item on the agenda, adjournment. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? On the roll.
On the roll call to adjourn, Mr. Mahecha?
Yes.
Ms. Justice? Mr. Hanley?
Yes.
Mr. Gunderson?
Yes.
Mr. Cho?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Cohn?
Yes.
The meeting is adjourned.
I call this meeting to order of the Board of School Estimates. We will begin, thank you. I call this meeting to order of the Board of School Estimates. We will begin with the flag salute. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. Notices announcing the date, time, and place for the special meeting were sent to all concerned individuals, associations, and posted on the district website in accordance with Public Law 2025, Chapter 72. On a roll call, Mayor Fagan?
Here.
Mayor Fagan is participating remotely. Ms. Landman?
Here.
Ms. Lesser-Asina?
Here.
Ms. Cohn?
Here.
Ms. Kelly?
Oh, she jumped off.
Uh-oh.
She's not here at the moment, but we'll
Okay.
get her back on.
Ms. Kelly is expected.
Okay, so we will begin with Agenda Item 4, approval of the minutes, A through C, March 27th, 2025, May 29th, 2025, and March 18th, 2026. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Sorry, back on.
Thank you, Eileen.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're just doing the approval of the minutes.
Madam President, I have a question.
Yes.
Since certain of us were not here for 2025, is it appropriate for us to vote, or should we abstain?
You can abstain.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we are ready for the roll call.
On the roll call, Mayor Fagan?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't do it. Okay. Ms. Landman?
Abstain.
Ms. Lasaracina?
Abstain.
Ms. Cohn?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
The minutes pass with 3 in favor, 2 abstaining.
Thank you. Next, we will have mayor's announcements.
This is very quick, and I just want to apologize for last minute switcheroo. I was intending to be there in person, but have a family emergency which requires that I hop on a plane in the near future. So I apologize for not being there, but I'm glad I was able to join you via Zoom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 6, 2026-2027 annual school budget. Superintendent Huff, would you like to give us the final school budget report?
Yes, that would be turning it over to Business Administrator, Interim Business Administrator Dorazino.
I'd like to read into the record. I'm reading the resolution, right?
Well,
I'll read into the record the resolution before the Board of School Estimate. Whereas pursuant to NJSA 18A:227, the Board of Education of the City of Summit has delivered the 26-27 school budget to the Board of School Estimate of the City of Summit. And whereas the total amount of the budget is $90,511,845, with the amount of $79,873,363 is determined to be necessary to be appropriated from local property taxes to support the said budget. And whereas the Board of School Estimate does hereby fix and determine the sum of $79,873,363 is necessary to be appropriated for the use of the City of Summit Public Schools for the 26-27 school year, and be it further resolved that the Board of School Estimate previously determined and certified to the Common Council of the City of Summit that the amount of $76,123,727 was necessary, that's $100,000, was necessary to be appropriated for use of the City of Summit Public Schools for the 25-26 school year, and be it further resolved that the Board of School Estimate does hereby certify to the Common Council of the City of Summit that the amount of $38,061,863 is necessary for the use of the City of Summit Public Schools for the period January 1, 2026 to June 30th, 2026, and the amount of $39,936,682 is necessary for the use of the City of Summit Public Schools for the period July 1 to December 31, 2026, or a total amount for both fiscal portions of $77,998,545 for calendar year 2026, and be it further resolved that the Secretary is hereby directed to deliver copies of this resolution, which shall also serve as certificates to the Common Council of the City of Summit and to the Board of Education of the City of Summit.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the BOE's members? Yes.
I'm just going to read a brief statement. So tonight I'm voting to support the Summit Public School budget and resulting tax levy for its residents. The year-over-year increase is significant, 4.93%, and I support it because it restores programs that should never have been cut in the first place. The average homeowner in Summit will pay $344 more in school taxes. $200 of that will go directly to healthcare costs, leaving $144 to pay for increases in costs for everything else: salaries, energy, utilities, transportation, and other goods and services. Summit Public Schools are not immune to inflation, but investing in Summit Public Schools is also an investment in our community as a whole. Strong public schools enhance property values and make Summit an attractive place for families to live. Cutting too deeply last year came at a real cost. Summer school teachers, 10 classroom aides, the district mental health clinician, 5 teachers and aides dedicated to students needing specialized support and instruction, and more staff were cut from the budget. Our students and their parents have been speaking out about the loss of this support. We hear you. The 2026-27 budget reflects a necessary step toward rebuilding our school programs in line with our community values. We are restoring access to in-school PSAT, which leads to scholarship opportunities. We are bringing back summer school in our Summit classrooms to ensure our students graduate on time and meet grade level standards. We are extending a special education program through high school, allowing impacted students to stay in Summit for their learning. We still have more repair work to do, including adding back a mental health clinician and hiring classroom aides to support student learning. But we may need a few years to optimize staffing, as we need to strike a balance between fully funding our schools and not overburdening our taxpayers. As a member of the Board of School Estimate, I look forward to supporting this year's fiscally responsible investment in public education and taking a step in the right direction for Summit. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Yes.
Thank you, Madam President. I plan to vote no on the proposed budget. I appreciate very much the work that's been done by Superintendent Huff, Ms. Sarno, our school principals, and their teams. Coming into the first Public BOE's meeting, I was feeling good about the draft budget, an austere budget focused on academic excellence. We had the opportunity to review certain early materials and ask many, many questions, all of which were answered. From our prior meeting to this meeting, what's changed is that I've now had the opportunity to review the detailed budget and reflect on the better than expected state aid. On the detailed budget, as Councilwoman Landman mentioned, many families have felt and expressed concerns about the cuts that were made last year, in particular to academics and the arts. The elimination of a new computer science teacher, the elimination of existing technology coaches, in-class support professionals, and so on. I understand these are tough decisions and tough economic times. We are working through it separately on the municipal budgeting process as well. Yet from the 2024-2025 actuals to the proposed budget for next year, the line item for school-sponsored athletic instruction has gone up over that 2-year period by about 9%, landing at just under $1.3 million. If I'm fortunate to serve on this body again next year, I encourage us to take a look at rebalancing the budget, if it should be appropriate, across academics, the arts and co-curriculars, and athletics. On to state aid. In the initial budget that was presented, we were prepared to go to the Summit taxpayers with a 5.17 year-over-year increase. With significant economic headwinds and at a time when many of our peer communities are increasing their budgets by 6, 7, 8, 9%, we were coming in at 5.17, and that's a credit to the Operations Committee, Superintendent Huff, Ms. Sarno, our school principals, and others. But then Summit received more in state aid than had been expected. In my mind, that is money intended for our students and meant to be invested in our schools. The first goal of the district's strategic plan is to, quote, prioritize the safety and wellness of our students and staff to support healthy, balanced, and productive learning environments, end quote. I think this is a great goal. And now we have the gift of this additional funding for our students. We know many of the kids are not okay. Social media pressures, AI chatbots, the threat of gun violence in schools, and so on. As part of last year's deep budget cuts, the district mental health clinician was eliminated. This was one individual supporting the entire district, about 4,000 students. We were getting remarkable support coverage, and yet the role was cut. We already ask our teachers and staff to do so much, to wear so many hats. Here we have the opportunity to complete the school roster by bringing a mental health clinician back or providing some other meaningful mental health support. Milburn School has a school psychologist. The Soma School District has several social workers and psychologists. Now, I am anchored in my own experience. When I was in high school, I lost a friend to suicide, and I sought the help, of a school mental health counselor, and she helped me immensely. These could be some of the best dollars that we invest in our schools, and yet we are choosing to put some of them outside the school budget to get from 5.17 to 4.93. It is often said and bears repeating, budgets reflect values. For the aforementioned reasons, I do not believe this budget is fully reflective of the values of our community. And so as a representative of the community, I vote no. I acknowledge mine is a symbolic and not a deciding vote. My hope is that it will encourage additional productive debate on how we are investing in the success of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further discussions by BOE's members? Yes, Mayor Fagan.
Thank you. Again, apologies for being remote, but I just want to say that we, as the Board of School Estimates, represent not just the people that are directly utilizing the Board of Education services. We also represent the entire community, all of whom are paying taxes, and some of whom are seniors that want to stay in our town. And I think it's very important to understand that there's a balance with regard to the expenditure that the Board of Ed utilizes every year. And I believe that under Rick Hanley's very able leadership, this year's process was vastly different than previous dysfunctional model, for lack of a better word. I apologize, but it's why I appointed him to the board. I trusted his expertise, I trusted his experience, and I trusted the expertise of the entire Board of Ed to come to the best result they could for the students, the staff, and the community. And I believe that last year, it was not a budget cut by any means, by the way, just to be clear. The budget went up almost 4% last year as well. And, the administration made decisions based on what they thought was the right balance for all of those things. And if I may be so bold as to suggest that Board of Eds are intended to educate our students and maybe refer kids and students to mental health professionals, and perhaps the role of the Board of Education is not to necessarily provide those services directly. It's to identify students who are in need of them and to point them to the private sector where that can be an extensive intervention if needed. We have guidance counselors, and our guidance department at the high school and the middle school, they are incredible resources for our students. And at the elementary schools, it's a very hands-on, very intimate environment. The nurses and the teachers, I think, are very well equipped to identify students who suffer and struggle with mental health issues. And so I think that identifying that as a key role of the Board of Ed is a mistake. And so I just want to put that out there. I also want to say that, I think that this budget is reflective of the priorities, and that Superintendent Huff was very articulate, and Assistant Business Administrator Sarno did a really great job of explaining the priorities of the Board of Ed at the presentation of this budget a couple of weeks ago, or last week. And I appreciate the work that the administrators have done, the principals have done to identify places where we can save some costs in a tough budget year. And so I just want to say all of that in the context of I am supportive of this budget, despite having a hard time stomaching a large increase in this budget. It's an almost 5% increase. It's something we've not done in this town before, at least in the 25 years I've been here. So I just want people to understand that indeed, it's a big increase, and 5% of $90 million is a lot of money. And it's a lot of money to the individual taxpayer, and I don't take that lightly. I think it's really important that people understand, that our residents understand that we value education. We know it's tied to the home values. And again, I will say it till the day I die, my kids have benefited from the school district, and I know that we have an awesome product here, and I don't want to sacrifice quality, but, you know, this is acknowledging that this is a very large increase, and knowing that across the state this is a huge problem because of all of the challenges with healthcare and so forth, but recognizing that the balance has been struck to create a budget that is cognizant of the fact that not every single taxpayer is directly benefiting from this, and so we have to balance that. So I appreciate all of the work that's been done at the operations committee level, at the administrative level. I really appreciate Superintendent Huff's, attention to this budget, and I will support this budget, but I want to be on record as saying that, you know, this is not nobody made any cuts last year. It was a large increase, and by the way, it was a larger increase than we've seen in 10 years. And part of that, and I said this last week, but I'll say it again, part of that is because perhaps there was too conservative an outlook on the prior 5 to 8 years, and now we're dealing with the consequences of that. So I will support the budget. I'm stomaching a pretty large increase in the budget. I did stomach a large increase last year as well. And I'm supporting it because I do value the services that our public schools provide to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion?
Ms. Cohen, I just want to add on the point of the budget of prioritization. I want to again congratulate Superintendent Huff, because every decision that was made in this budget and priors as well always does require his expertise, his administration's expertise. And, we also take into account residents' opinion and value their perspective on what's important. But it is, the expertise of the principals, the administration, Superintendent Scott Huff, to make decisions that are objective and data-driven. And I think anytime we're adding a role or evaluating a role, whether it be a new role or an existing role, he has, I think, done a really great job of understanding what is the impact. Is it one child? Is it 50 children? Is it 100 children? Is it extensive for the longevity of a child's education? So I just want to commend Superintendent Scott Huff for also making hard decisions in this budget that really required a lot of diligence and continued diligence from what I've seen as I've served on the board. So thank you, Superintendent Huff. I do appreciate the rigor that you have, which focuses on priorities and continues to drive excellence in this budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, so we will move on to public comment. Ms. Zeno, could you read out the applicable rules?
Yes, ma'am. Anyone wishing to speak shall first seek recognition by the presiding officer. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address in a clear, audible tone for the record. Please direct all your comments to the board president and not an individual member of the board. Please remember to conduct yourself with decorum and respect when speaking and addressing the board. Unless additional time is granted by the board president, please be respectful and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. In addition, please note that this portion of the meeting is for public comment and not meant to be a back and forth discussion.
Hello, Diego Hoyt again. First of all, a comment to Mayor Fagan. I'm sorry about the circumstances that kept you away, and hope everything plays out for the best. Mayor Fagan and I share that we have kids that we strive to educate in the academics, in the arts, and in the athletics. And I respect that too. I do want to go back to a really important point I made earlier. But I want to couch that in what I believe to be the role of this Board of School Estimate. So we have a Board of Education whose role is to come up with the best budget for our students. Then we have a City Council whose role it is to think about the overall tax levy for the citizens. And this Board of School Estimate has members of council and members of the Board of Education so that those two priorities can get squared away. And it is important to develop tools for the Board of Education to be able to speak about numbers with the board, with the Common Council. And so I have a suggestion for that. I alluded to it in my previous comment, but I'm going to make it formally to this body, which it should really be mentioned. And I think that Scott did a great job, Superintendent Huff did a great job with the strategic plan and aligning behind the 3 pillars. I think everybody in the community understands those 3 pillars, and I think that by and large, everybody in the community agrees that academics, athletics, and the arts are the 3 pillars of a phenomenal education. And a budgetary exercise will, by definition, be about allocating priorities. And there are going to be kids who are going to be athletic, there are going to be kids who are going to be into science and academics and history and all that stuff, and there's going to be artists. And we need to allocate amongst those 3 constituencies equally, or not equally, but equitably, I should say. And that brings me back to the cuts last year. The cuts last year was strictly about academics and the arts. So I think that we need to take a look at the big picture, the employee benefits, transportation, regular programming, and break it up into 3 buckets. That's a way to understand whether we're being equitable or not. Okay, if we're allocating one year too much money to the arts, we can stop the next year. You cannot ever be perfectly equitable, but you can know which side you favored last year, and you can course correct the next year. Okay, but you can only do that through transparency. So strong recommendation, look for academics, arts, and athletics for the budget. My other plug is for bilingual education. It's down 9% since 2024. That is 20% decline adjusting for inflation. We have 5 or 6% of our kids who are born overseas. We have 37% of the kids have at least one parent who is an immigrant. Having had a child who is a graduate of that program, who in 1 year, because he knew very well how to read in Spanish, I'll be very brief, how to read in Spanish, he caught up in 7 months because the job was phenomenal. Cutting that is a disgrace, and it's not that much money. It should be put into the budget this year. Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Do I have a motion to close the discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
On the motion to close public comments, Ms. Landman?
Aye.
Ms. Lasaracina?
Yes.
Ms. Cohn?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Fagan?
Sorry, I was muted, yes.
Thank you. The public comments are closed.
Agenda item 7, approval of the 2026-2027 annual school budget as per the attached and as read out by Ms. Zeno earlier. I'm not certain if we need to read it again officially. No, we're good since we read it out earlier? Okay. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
On the roll call to adopt the annual school budget, Ms. Landman?
Aye.
Ms. Lasaracino?
No.
Sino?
No.
Ms. Cohn?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Fagan?
Yes.
Motion carries 4 in favor, 1 opposed.
And adjournment, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
On the roll call to adjourn the meeting, Ms. Landman?
Aye.
Ms. Lasaracina?
Yes.
Ms. Cohn?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Fagan?
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thanks, Melanie, for running the
Thank
meeting.
you, Ms.
Yeah,
Cohen.
my
Thank you,
pleasure.
President Cohen, for running that.